Revealed. The amazing moment a child offered his mother to a CEO. A touching story of humanity. In the heart of a small Midwestern town, a thunderclap of anticipation echoed through the school auditorium. 10-year-old Jake, with his tousled hair and nervous fidgeting, found himself torn between hope and fear as he stepped onto the stage. Today was career day, and the room buzzed with whispers about Mark Turner, a CEO whose name glittered on magazine covers. Inside, Jake's heart raced, driven by a desire to change his family's fortunes and prove that even a boy like him, a shadow among more polished peers, could make a difference. Jake's mind spun with thoughts of his mom, Sarah, grinding through her third job like a warrior battling against a relentless tide of bills. She taught him the value of persistence, a lesson etched into his heart with love and sacrifice. But every time they counted coins for groceries or saw an eviction notice flapping in the breeze, he felt their dreams squashed beneath the weight of the world. As Mark's impressive silhouette cast a shadow in front of him, Jake felt the growing pressure around his chest tighten. Could he really do this? Could he approach the corporate titan and offer his mother as if she were a mere job candidate? The thought sent a jolt of unease through him. Yet, his longing to protect her burned like a flame. He envisioned Sarah, weary but hopeful, finally holding a new job, a symbolic key to break their chains. His determination was undercut by the voice of doubt taunting him. How could a kid like him, from a single-parent household, even think he stood a chance? Before he could overthink it further, he took a deep breath, steeling himself against the walls of judgment he feared would tumble around him. "Mr. Turner," he called out, and the room fell silent, disbelief washing over the faces of his classmates. The boldness felt surreal, intensifying his internal turmoil. The duality of wanting to uplift his mother and fearing the ridicule from the crowd entwined in a constant battle. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The discussion Mark sparked around Jake's suggestion shifted from hushed curiosity to vibrant discourse. Meritocracy versus nepotism echoed through the room, invasive and overwhelming. Jake's cheeks burned as eyes fixed on him, waiting for his explanation. Every heartbeat felt like a siren, warning him he had overstepped, had dared to voice a truth so raw. The warmth of empathy and the sting of judgment wrestled inside him, simmering with increasing urgency as he grappled with how much of his mother's struggle he could expose. Mark's expression had softened, which only heightened the stakes. Could he really reach out to help his mother? Soon, whispers morphed into murmurs of disdain, and Jake's chest tightened further, pushing him dangerously close to the edge. He swallowed hard. Did he just place his mother's struggling dignity on the auction block? His entire body trembled with the heaviness of the moment, as the chaotic threads of potential futures coiled tighter around him, blurring the line between loyalty and ambition. As the room continued debating, Jake realized that his deep-seated fears were blossoming. Just as he felt his resolve waver, clarity struck him like lightning. He could not let down the one person who believed in him most. The thought of his mother's hardworking hands, calloused yet nurturing, clenched his heart. Here he stood, poised between devotion and the unrelenting nature of ambition. And just as he began to process this whirlwind of emotions, a pivotal moment erupted from the crowd. Conversation shifted sharply, a comment, a laugh, the stomping of feet. Jake's heart raced violently. He felt the chasm of hope and dread widen beneath him. Should he cling to the fragile thread of his mother's resilience, or venture into an unknown realm that might shatter the very foundation of their lives? As he stared into the thrumming audience, unable to predict how he would navigate the storm ahead, Jake understood he was now at a crossroads, a precipice where loyalty could collide with ambition, leaving him gasping for clarity amid the chaos. The ambient noise flickered like a candle, each sound wrestling with Jake's anxious heart. As he glanced out into the sea of curious faces, a sudden surge of resolve ignited within him. This moment, however unnerving, could serve as a catalyst, not just for his mother's future, but for his own burgeoning self-identity. He felt a pulse, a chemical reaction ignited by the combination of his truth and the collective energy surrounding him. "Mr. Turner," he said again, this time with more conviction. "What I really mean is that my mom deserves a chance. She's worked so hard, and I know you look for potential. She has more potential than anyone I know." The intensity in his voice seemed to slice through the tension in the room, where feet shuffled and breaths were held. For the first time, he wasn't speaking solely out of fear. He was advocating for her truth, remembering every sacrifice she had made and every sigh of exhaustion that had escaped her lips. Mark Turner listened, eyebrows raised, steepling his fingers as he pondered the raw honesty of Jake's statement. A shift occurred, as the murmurs in the audience quieted, reality coalescing around the child's insistence. Mark's interest peaked, and Jake could almost feel the gravity of that moment press against him, urging him to explore this opportunity with greater depth. As the focus turned toward him, a rush of inspiration surged through Jake. Perhaps this wasn't just a plea for help. It was a chance to reflect on his own ambitions. Instead of distancing himself from the idea of his mother's struggle, he needed to reframe it. How could he understand his own dreams and aspirations through her sacrifices? His thoughts raced. What if he took this moment to assert his own voice? Would sharing their struggles further illuminate his resolve to achieve something greater than mere survival? He grasped the microphone tighter, a newfound determination treasuring every word as a weapon against self-doubt. "Mr. Turner, every day, my mom teaches me things you won't find in books. She can manage multiple jobs and still love me fiercely. She's strong enough to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders, and I want to show you that strength has value." Each word felt like a luminescent thread, weaving into a fabric of connection that transcended his own fears, bridging a divide between his childhood innocence and the complex world of adulthood he yearned to understand. There was pin-drop silence as his classmates mirrored his passion. Jake could sense their eyes flickering with a range of emotions: surprise, concern, and perhaps a hint of admiration. Amidst the chaos of ambition and loyalty, he recognized his own burgeoning aspirations intertwining with his mother's narrative. What if this moment was not just about offering her up to a CEO, but rather about understanding the value they both carried? What if he could spark a conversation about the importance of resilience, hard work, and merit? The thought hammered in his chest, pushing him forward with a fierce impulse to empower the bonds of their shared experience. Suddenly, Mark's deep voice cut through the atmosphere. "You speak from the heart, young man. But tell me, what would it take for you to believe in a future where you don't have to offer your mother up at all? What if she could remain your guiding light while you chased your own ambition?" His heart fluttered at the enormity of that question, each word compelling him to confront the choices that lay ahead. Jake could feel the walls of his hesitation beginning to crumble, his vision of the future morphing from one of dependence to one of empowerment. The echoes of Sarah's sacrifices loomed behind him, a sturdy foundation he could stand upon to reach for his own dreams, untethered from fear. A fire ignited in Jake's eyes, the path ahead growing clearer, yet fraught with new complexities. Could he step wholly into this future, allowing himself to dream beyond merely lifting his mother? A whirlwind of possibilities opened up as he plummeted into those ambiguities. He realized he would have to navigate the turbulent waters between individual dreams and familial obligations, a new resolution percolating within him. He took a deep breath, prepared for this crucial pivot. Little did he know, however, that the forthcoming choices would demand not just courage, but a reckoning with the very essence of his values, a revelation that might just change the course of their lives forever. Jake stood there, the microphone still anchored in his grip, as a whirlwind of thoughts raged through his mind. The words he had just forged felt like kindling, each spoken syllable igniting a deeper understanding of who he was and who he aspired to be. The gaze of the auditorium pressed upon him, and he could no longer differentiate their reactions from his own pulsing anxiety. What did Mark Turner's question truly mean? The promise of a life where he didn't have to lean on his mother's sacrifices seemed both intoxicating and terrifying. He had always been defined through her struggles, their shared experience a binding force that shaped his identity. Yet, was it wrong to pit his dreams against hers? Could he still honor her resilience while simultaneously claiming his own? Shifting his weight, Jake dared to imagine a scenario where he could thrive, a dream unmarred by obligation. Perhaps it was time to redefine what success meant, a fusion of ambition that embraced both his journey and his mother's unwavering support. The idea felt thrilling, like stepping off a ledge into unfamiliar territory. "Mr. Turner," he began again, feeling a surge of urgency. "I want to create a future where my mom can see me chase my own dreams without feeling like she has to sacrifice everything for them. I want to show her that her strength fuels my passion for something greater." His voice was steady now, grounded with self-awareness and initiative. The audience listened, the silence heavy with anticipation. In that moment, Jake questioned his own capabilities. Could he indeed craft a reality where he could navigate his ambitions, independent yet rooted in gratitude? His willingness to explore this territory felt like stepping onto a moving train. Each thrill of uncertainty a call to his younger self, urging him to understand the complexities of his desires. Jake could feel a shift within himself, but as he surveyed the landscape of challenges ahead, he realized he had a long road to travel. Would the journey necessitate confronting the expectations placed on him by others? Did he dare to dream so boldly, to find a path that might even remove his perceived need for validation? Mark Turner nodded slowly, as if absorbing the essence of Jake's words. "It's admirable to envision a future where you both flourish. Internalizing your mother's lesson of resilience is pivotal, but you cannot remain tethered to solely her narrative. What does your dream look like, Jake? What will it take for you to establish your own identity?" A barrage of questions flooded his mind, each one unwinding layers of complacency. He hadn't allowed himself the full breadth of pursuing his aspirations. Did he even know what they were beyond being a reflection of his mother's tenacity? Suddenly, the certainty of his planning buckled under the weight of introspection. Perhaps what defined him was not simply in lifting his mother up, but rather in the pursuit of meaning that he could carve out for himself. As Mark urged him onwards, Jake couldn't suppress a sense of impending revelation that loomed over him. The confrontation with his own aspirations would be part of a larger tale he had yet to write. The curtains hadn't closed yet, and he felt the fray of excitement and apprehension tangling within him, like a tightrope walker seeking balance above an abyss. "Mr. Turner," he said, finding his voice once again, "I want to explore what makes me fulfilled, without stepping on my mother's narrative." His heart raced as he felt the weight of authenticity settle into his being. "I need to discover why I am capable of pursuing my dreams, while embracing hers as well. But I don't know where to start." He awaited a response, fully aware that this uncertainty would demand more from him than simply speaking his truth. It would require action, stepping into a new realm of decisions that would reshape his perspective and forge his identity as an individual. Mark regarded him with newfound intrigue, a glimmer of recognition in his eyes. "That's the essence of growth, young man. The journey toward self-discovery isn't for the faint-hearted. Are you ready to confront the shadows of your expectations and challenge the definitions of your future?" Jake's breath hitched, the weight of his resolve lifting momentarily. He had asked for this shift, and now he had the opportunity to carve a path that belonged to him, a route that demanded exploration amid the unknown. As anticipation coiled in his chest, a single thought rippled through his mind. The future might hold more answers than he had ever imagined. But first, he would need to confront the complexity of his own identity. As the world outside beckoned for him to take that plunge, he couldn't help but ask himself, Was he truly ready to embrace the full spectrum of his potential? Jake left the auditorium, the weight of Mark Turner's questions echoing in his mind. Each step felt lighter, yet heavier in its implications. The world outside buzzed with energy, but inside him a storm brewed, a clash of ambition and expectation. Retrieving his phone from his pocket, he hesitated before scrolling through his contacts. His mother's name glowed brightly on the screen, a gentle reminder of the bond they shared. But tonight, he didn't just want to fulfill their shared story. He yearned to write his own. Taking a deep breath, he dialed her number, but lowered the phone just before it connected. What would he say? He wanted to express his evolving thoughts without shattering her expectations. Could he share this burgeoning desire for independence without feeling disloyal? As he strolled the streets, the city lights glinting like stars, Jake's mind raced. He needed clarity, a vision to pair with his feelings. Instead of succumbing to doubt, he resolved to pen down his aspirations. He retreated to his favorite park bench, a sanctuary amid the commotion of the city. Jake fished out a notepad from his bag, the blank pages whispering potential. He scribbled furiously, ideas layering atop each other like building blocks. At first there were cliches, tangible markers of success bred from societal expectations. A steady job, a nice car, stability. But each time he wrote, the words felt hollow. Focusing harder, he turned inward and began to dig deeper. What made him feel alive? What pursuits excited him beyond the expectations placed snugly upon him? As he searched for meaning, a realization crystallized. His love for storytelling. The way words could weave reality and imagination into a tapestry felt exhilarating. With newfound determination, he wrote, "I want to write stories. Stories fueled by my experiences, my voice, not just a mirror to others' ambition." This declaration illuminated the path ahead, the vibrating hum of sincerity lifting his spirits. Yet, still lurking in the shadows of doubt was the worry of how his mother would perceive his decision. Would she believe he was abandoning her legacy? Just then, his phone buzzed, jolting him from his thoughts. A text from his mother lit up the dim screen. "Hey, Jake, how did the presentation go? I hope it was everything we dreamed of." Her unwavering faith resonated, igniting a torrent of emotion. They had always supported each other, yet fear punctured his resolve. He replied with a simple, "It went well. I need to talk to you about some things." Pending thoughts lingered as he watched ripples in the nearby pond. Confronting his mother about his newfound aspirations would be another battleground, a collision of hearts and minds. But he knew stifling his vision would only foster resentment. Authenticity could cement their connection, yet the fear of disappointing her loomed. Jake realized he didn't want to wait for a moment of serendipity. Instead, he could initiate this shift, one painful yet liberating conversation at a time. It was more than just personal development. It was a shift in his role in their narrative. The horizon grew darker, casting an orange glow over the city. He felt a surge of determination to reclaim narratives shaped long ago. But how would he reveal this new chapter? As his mind spun with possibilities, a new question materialized. How would he confront his mother with his new ambitions, without risking the very bond he cherished? The answer lingered tantalizingly close. Yet for now, the uncertainty stayed, like a specter at his side. The untold conversations and unmade choices rose like a tide, ready to pull him into uncharted waters, demanding he not only confront his mother, but also the fear that had long kept him tethered to the past. In that moment of reflection, he understood. The time had come to face not just his mother's expectations, but everything that had kept him from stepping boldly into the life he desired. He stood from the bench, his resolve shimmering like the last light of dusk, ready to transform all uncertainty into action. Jake found himself in a tapestry of thoughts as he walked home, battering through a current of emotions. Each step resonated with the echoes of his aspirations and the burdens of familial beliefs. The gentle hum of the city softened his anxiety, but it couldn't snuff out the growing flame of determination inside him. Arriving at his apartment, Jake collapsed onto his well-worn couch, surrounded by uninspired decor that once felt comforting, but now seemed to symbolize stagnation. He glanced around, his gaze landing on the half-finished manuscript that lay on the coffee table. Closing his eyes, he envisioned the words waiting to escape, then reopened them resolutely, ready to write with authenticity. As he picked up a pen, Jake's internal dialogue shifted from fear to optimism. Would this be the story that affirmed his voice? Would these pages echo his true self, instead of simply adapting to someone else's narrative? With each word that flowed, he realized he could channel the struggle against expectations into powerful prose. Writing became an act of defiance and a mechanism for discovery. Yet every keystroke invited a new wave of uncertainty. Would anyone care to read about his journey? Would it be worth the risk of opening himself to criticism? He shuddered his doubts with each paragraph, crafting characters that mirrored his struggles, weaving tales that could resonate deeply with others caught in similar conflicts. The clock's relentless ticking reminded him of time's swift passage. He had to confront his mother soon, yet he felt unprepared. How could he express thoughts that clawed at his throat? He needed a plan, a way to present his vision without damping the light she had always kindled within him. Taking a deep breath, he reached for his phone again, this time scrolling through websites and videos that might guide him in preparing for that difficult conversation. Jake stumbled upon advice from writers who had broken free from familial expectations. Testimonials of how authenticity in storytelling rejuvenated connections inspired him. These were powerful lessons, echoing like a siren call, encouraging him to embrace his truth. After hours of exploration, he sat back, filled with a sense of purpose. The fear of the conversation with his mother no longer paralyzed him. Instead, it became a pivotal moment that could redefine their relationship. He envisioned speaking not just for himself, but for all the unvoiced stories waiting in the shadows of societal expectation. Jake took one last look at his introductory pages, before deciding to divert his attention toward preparing for that imminent discussion. He lit a candle and spread a few sheets of paper across the table. Slowly, he fleshed out bullet points for his conversation. He wanted to focus on his deep respect for her dreams, how they had shaped him, and how he would weave his own aspirations into a new vision, not to replace hers, but to build upon them. Hours passed, and as the moon bathed the room in soft light, Jake felt a nagging whisper of doubt rear its head again. What if she didn't understand? What if their relationships faltered? Yet alongside this worry was an undeniable fire. He wanted her to witness him grow, to open up about insecurities and desires. In that instant, he knew he would not back down. He would nurture both his ambition and their bond, asserting that love could withstand the challenge of contrasting paths. As he prepared to retreat to bed, he resolved that the time was now. Tomorrow his story would surge forward into the unknown. Still, he sensed something was brewing in the depths of his thoughts, an important facet of his journey that had yet to reveal itself. Jake held his breath, aware that the real test loomed not just in words spoken, but in the confrontation of emotions and beliefs hanging over them both. What feelings would surface when he finally laid bare his dreams? The reality of their conversation crackled in anticipation, leaving him with one pressing question. Could vulnerability breed a stronger bond? Or would it unravel everything they had built together? As dawn broke, casting golden light through the sheer curtains of his apartment, Jake awoke with a mix of anticipation and dread. The conversation with his mother loomed large in his mind. It was not simply a matter of sharing words. It was about unveiling his innermost self, about challenging the very fabric of their relationship. He shook off sleep and moved to the kitchen, the ritual of brewing coffee grounding him. As the rich aroma filled the room, he thought of the story he had crafted, words he had poured onto the pages with a fervor that surprised him. The desire to be authentic galvanized his resolve. He would not retreat into silence today. Sitting with his coffee, He imagined his mother sitting across from him. What would her expression be when he spoke his truth? Would she smile, or would confusion cloud her features? The fear of her disappointment twisted his stomach, but he remembered the testimonials he had read the night before. Real connections were built on honesty. He had to believe in that. Following his morning routine, Jake dressed deliberately, careful to choose clothes that felt comfortable, yet confident. He glanced in the mirror, rehearsing phrases that felt foreign, yet powerful against his tongue. He wanted to strike a balance between vulnerability and strength, but a gnawing feeling that he was on shaky ground persisted. Arriving at his mother's house was akin to stepping into a battlefield. The familiar facade of their family home felt imposing, a place where years of memories and unspoken expectations lingered. As he entered, he searched his mother's face for a hint of how the conversation might unfold. She greeted him with a warm hug, an instinctive sign of love that made the burden heavier. "Jake, it's so good to see you," she said, ushering him to the dining room. The breakfast table was set, a scene he had known all his life. She served pancakes, her unassuming hospitality juxtaposed against the storm brewing within him. As they sat down, Jake's heart raced, thoughts colliding like storm clouds. He watched his mother savor her food, completely unaware of the tempest building in his chest. She mentioned trivial matters, friends, her garden, and for a brief moment, Jake lost himself in the comfort of familiarity. But familiar wasn't what he wanted anymore. He needed to break free, to usher in the new phase of their relationship. Taking a deep breath, he recalled the bullet points he had written, their essence anchoring his swirling thoughts. "Mom," he started, his voice wavering slightly. "There's something important I need to talk to you about." A pause rippled through the air. His mother met his gaze, her brow furrowing with concern. "Is everything all right?" "Yeah, it's just—" Jake hesitated. Would she understand? Would she respond with the same love that had always been her defining trait? He steeled himself, observing the warmth in her eyes, remembering the unconditional support she had offered throughout his life. "Actually, I've been thinking a lot about my future, about what I want to do," he finally said, words tumbling out with renewed urgency. "I want to write, and I need you to know that it's important to me to pursue this path." Her surprise cracked through the atmosphere, momentarily freezing time. Jake could see a mix of disbelief and concern flicker across her face. Would she see this as defiance or destiny? As she opened her mouth to respond, Jake prepared himself, not just for her reaction, but for the heartfelt conversation he had longed to initiate. In that crucial moment, he realized this was the crossroads. Could he manage the risk of vulnerability, or was he stepping into a chasm where understanding could fall apart? He held his breath, ready to plunge into the depths of their shared history, eyes resolute, heart racing. But what would her response reveal about them both? Would it close the door on his dreams, or open the floodgates for a new era in their relationship? The tension thickened, setting the stage for a profound revelation that might redefine everything. Jake clenched his fists under the table, waiting for the words that would shape the future of his aspirations. His mother's reaction spilled into the space between them, a chasm of uncharted territory. She blinked, and he sensed a wave of uncertainty enveloping them both. "Writing?" she finally whispered, the question hanging heavily in the air. "What do you mean, be a writer?" Her gaze searched his, revealing a blend of curiosity and skepticism that prickled his skin. "I've started working on a book," Jake replied, the confession rippling through him like electricity. It's a part of me, Mom. I really need you to understand that this isn't just a dream. It feels real, and I want to make it happen." Her brow furrowed deeper, the lines upon her face mapping out paths of concern. "But Jake, you've always focused on practical things. What about your career, your job? What will people think?" The words landed with the weight of stones. Each syllable seemed to hit against his resolve, fracturing it ever so slightly. "Mom," he said, struggling to push back against the rising tide of defeat. "I can't live my life based on other people's expectations. I need to follow this passion." Silence enveloped the dining room, thick and suffocating. The once comforting sounds of forks clinking against plates faded away, leaving an echo of doubt behind. He watched her carefully, searching for clarity, for that unconditionally loving spark he had always known. Instead, he found a woman caught in the storm of concern for her child, fearful of change, terrified of losing the vision of who he could be. "Jake, I just want what's best for you," she said, her voice trembling. "I worry that you might regret this. Writing is such a risky pursuit. What if it doesn't work out?" The tidal wave of pressure surged higher, threatening to drown out Jake's burgeoning confidence. Thoughts swirled in turmoil. Would she ever see beyond the confines of conventional success? He had spent years pursuing paths mapped out by others, ticking boxes of expectations. Yet now he was confronting the very foundation built upon those decisions. "Mom, I've been doing what was expected of me for so long that I've lost sight of who I am," Jake said, the urgency of his resolve building to a near breaking point. "If I don't give this a chance, I might just become someone else's version of myself. And that scares me more than taking a leap into the unknown." His words seemed to penetrate the fog surrounding her thoughts, just enough to shift the atmosphere. The impending doom began to crack as his mother absorbed the weight of his statement. "I see you're passionate about this," she conceded slowly, her features softening, if only slightly. "But I want you to promise me that you'll at least have a backup plan. Writing isn't a steady path. It's unpredictable." Jake felt a rush of conflicting emotions. Her hesitance was rooted in love, but he also sensed the unspoken boundaries of fear constricting the conversation. Could he embrace this new reality while still appeasing her concerns, or did he risk shattering their existing order? "I promise to look for opportunities to support myself while I write," he eventually replied, a flicker of hope ignited from within. "But I need to take this chance, Mom. Can you be with me in that?" She remained silent, contemplating the conflicting tides of her affection and apprehension. Jake's heart raced, battling against the uncertainty in the moment. In her eyes, he saw the seed of possibility beginning to sprout, a chance not just for him, but for them as a family. It was the dawn of a new chapter, one where conflict could transform into understanding, or paint him as a misguided child chasing fantastical dreams. Just as Jake felt the tendrils of hope entwining around his resolve, his mother spoke again. "All right, Jake. I will try to understand, but it will take time for both of us." Those words hung in the air like remnants of a fragile truce, and Jake realized that while the conversation had begun to mend the fabric of their relationship, it was only a small step on a longer, winding path. As they began to clear the table, his mind whirred with the implications of their exchange. Had this breakthrough been enough? Would it ultimately lead them toward a place of shared dreams, or was it the beginning of his isolation as he ventured deeper into uncharted territories of expression? Jake felt an urge, a deep-seated need to translate his tumultuous emotions into words on the page. Perhaps he could write about this moment, encapsulate every heaviness of doubt and flicker of hope that had been shared here today. However, the lingering question remained. How would he navigate this newfound fragility within their relationship while pursuing the ambitions that now glimmered on the horizon? With resolve rippling through him, Jake returned to his mother, ready to discuss the balance between creative passion and life's pragmatic challenges, eager to discover whether they could cultivate a new understanding together. Yet, shadows of apprehension loomed, whispering that this was only the beginning of battling against the expectations that might yet bind him, a battle he was determined to win. He recognized now that each word he wrote could be more than mere expression. They could be the foundation of a future bridging their hopes, bridging the space between freedom and familial ties. And as he stood on the edge of this uncertain journey, a new question surfaced. What more would he need to confront as he ventured into the world of writing? And could those confrontations forge the identity he yearned to claim? As the evening settled around them, a quiet unease danced in the air. Jake studied his mother's face as she rinsed the plates, the flickering light casting shadows that mirrored his own internal turmoil. Every clatter sounded like an echo of doubt, each drop of water a reminder of the weight he was about to carry. With a profound need to shift the momentum, he decided to take small yet deliberate steps forward. "I'll start by writing every day," he said suddenly, his voice cutting through the mist of uncertainty. "Even if it's just a few pages. That'll help me find my voice and refine what I'm passionate about." She paused, a dish halfway submerged in soapy water, and turned to him, the surprise evident in her eyes. "Every day? Is that practical?" "I believe it is," he replied, taut with determination. "This is how I'll sharpen my craft. It's a commitment I need to make to myself." The truth was, he had been grappling with the nebulous fear of failure ever since he decided to take this leap. If he could dedicate himself to his writing, it would feel less like a gamble and more like a strategic endeavor. "All right." She nodded cautiously, her acceptance both a relief and a challenge. "But you need to balance that with your job. Do you have a plan B?" Jake hesitated, the cracks in his strategy becoming clearer. "I can look for freelance writing opportunities, maybe even start a blog." That idea placed him at a crossroads. A conflicting pulse of excitement thrummed through him, matched by the fear of exposing himself to public scrutiny. His mind raced through his next steps. A blog could be the perfect platform to hone his writing skills while building an audience. It was a blend of creative freedom and a practical backup, something he could put on his resume to show his commitment. Yet, how was he supposed to navigate the delicate terrain of self-promotion? The confrontation with vulnerability loomed large. "Okay," his mother said slowly. "Write a few drafts and I can help you edit them. Maybe you could even submit an article to a local magazine." The offer sliced through Jake's doubt, illuminating new paths. There was something distinctly empowering about the idea of collaboration, a moment where their relationship shifted from tension to partnership. "Thanks, Mom. That would mean a lot." With each thoughtful exchange, the heavy expectations seemed to lighten, transforming into a calculating strategy of shared ambition. As they moved into the living room, Jake set his sights on the blank pages ahead. He was beginning to forge a personal mission, but the contours of his journey still felt unsteady. He spent the next few nights writing feverishly at an old desk that was covered in dust, pulling the remnants of his scattered thoughts into coherent narratives. Each stroke of the pen allowed him to stitch together his burgeoning identity, but with each word came a mix of exhilaration and fear. What if the words he so desperately wanted to share were not enough? A whirlwind of ideas consumed him. Yet the pressure of a looming deadline at work and the need for a fallback plan created a chaotic undercurrent. He began outlining different projects, and his mind buzzed with potential topics, fueled by the fragile excitement of his mother's tentative support. But the inherent struggle was more than logistical. It was deeply personal. He sat in silence, staring at the blank computer screen, feeling a clash between his desire for authenticity and the weight of expectation. The realization set in. This was more than just writing. It was a battle for his essence, a confrontation with his inner self. Then the email arrived. A message from a local literary magazine inviting submissions for a themed issue about personal journeys. The flutter of nerves bounced in his stomach, a blend of eagerness and fear. Was this the opportunity he needed to propel himself forward, or a reminder that the world could be cold to the aspirations of a novice writer? As he stared at the empty text box, questions burrowed deep within him. Did he have the courage to expose his soul? Would this be the moment he either broke through or shattered under the weight of self-doubt? In that moment, Jake understood that while he had taken brave first steps, there was still a long road ahead, a road fraught with further challenges and truths he had yet to confront. The tension in his journey was thickening, and with every word he resisted writing, it crept forward to meet him. With only a shaky breath separating clarity from uncertainty, Jake knew it was time to face the pieces of himself that still lay hidden. Determined not to let the fear paralyze him, he took a deep breath, resolved that each click of the keyboard would echo his commitment to authenticity, and poised himself for what came next. A crucial reminder that the real battle was yet to unfold. Jake sat at the desk, the computer screen glaring back at him like a judgmental eye, unyielding and stark. The white space seemed to mock his hesitation, each blink of the cursor a reminder of his indecision. He breathed deeply, attempting to steel the courage that had carried him this far, but each inhale felt heavier than the last. The pressing weight of expectation settled in his chest, spurring a deeper unrest within. He knew that this was more than just writing. It was a confrontation with the fear that had shadowed his ambitions for too long. Jake had often dismissed his dreams, relegating them to the corners of his mind where they coexisted with self-doubt. Now, however, he was faced with the urgency to give them form, to bring them to life through his words. Each time he tried to pen a sentence, his mind flickered with memories of failure. The exasperated faces of past teachers judging his essays, the dismissive reactions of peers, and the self-critical inner voice whispering that he was an imposter circulated in a relentless loop. But he had committed. He could no longer retreat into the comfort of avoidance. Maybe this wasn't about perfection. Maybe it was simply about showing up and allowing his authentic voice to resonate, no matter how flawed it might seem in the beginning. Jake's hand hovered over the keyboard, and the anxiety began to shift, morphing slightly into determination. He focused on the email, the one that invited him to share his story. Something inside him stirred, a faint resolve that begged for expression. What if he wrote about the vulnerabilities he had been grappling with, the tangled relationship with his own aspirations? Perhaps revealing his struggles would not only liberate him, but also resonate with others experiencing the same turmoil. With a sudden rush of clarity, he began typing furiously. Words poured out in an unfiltered stream. He bared his soul on the page, exposing the fears and dreams that spun within him. He wrote of the challenges of finding his voice amid insecurity, the dichotomy of yearning for a creative life while bearing the weight of practicality. As he continued, a small thrill sparked within him. He found himself in the act of creating, each keystroke a defiance of the forces that had sought to keep him silent. The rhythm of his thoughts found a cadence that felt natural, almost liberating. A story was emerging, not just for the magazine but for himself, too. The clock ticked by, and the words began to conjure images in his mind, moments of discovery and disarray interwoven with hope. He wrote about his mother's tentative support, the way her belief shifted the dynamic between them, and how that partnership fortified his determination to create. Yet, just as his narrative began to crystallize into something meaningful, another voice broke through. This time, it wasn't his inner critic, but rather the echo of doubt. What if the magazine rejected him? What if vulnerability became a weapon against him? The fear of feedback loomed large, threatening to undercut the momentum he'd finally built. He hesitated, hand poised over the keyboard, the cursor blinking expectantly. The attached weight of his ambitions was tangible, anchoring him even as he fought to rise. Jake realized he was standing at the precipice of a decision that could define his path, whether to embrace the potential for growth and rejection or shy away into security. Taking a deep breath, he recalled his earlier resolve. Each person deeply committed to their dreams faced criticism, yet what propelled them wasn't the absence of fear, it was the audacity to confront it. In this juncture, Jake understood that the act of writing wasn't truly about the words formed on the page. It was an affirmation of his existence, a testament to the pieces of himself he was finally allowing the world to see. With renewed resolve, he began typing again, breathing life into his written words. He found himself breaking barriers as he poured his heart onto the page, embracing the sweat of vulnerability. Each line transformed into a declaration of who he was, a commitment to authenticity that would either soar high or crash down, but either outcome would be his. Finally, as he clicked send on the email, An unexpected calm washed over him. The tension coursed through him, electric yet exhilarating. The battle within was still present, but for now, he had taken a crucial step toward self-revelation. He leaned back in his chair, heart racing, contemplating what lay ahead. Jake realized that the journey was far from over. It might even intensify from here. He had committed to authenticity, and with that promise came an inevitable confrontation with the outside world. The thought of what would happen next sent a bolt of adrenaline through him. Would his words resonate, or would they fall on deaf ears? An unforeseen challenge loomed on the horizon, and he could feel it gathering strength. The moment of truth was approaching, where he would have to confront not just the world, but also the deeper parts of himself he had yet to unveil. The days turned into weeks, the wait for a response from the magazine feeling like an eternity. Yet during this time, an unexpected metamorphosis was taking place within Jake. He had committed to his writing practice, pouring himself into his stories, each word acting as a brushstroke on the canvas of his identity. Discarding the measurement of success dictated by others, he began to embrace the unpredictable journey of creativity as his own. His mornings were filled with inspiration and challenge. He mapped out ideas, wrestled with plot lines, and most importantly, cultivated a routine that allowed his voice to flourish. No longer did he see his aspirations as burdensome responsibilities. They became artistic outlets, fountains of possibility fueled by the courage of self-expression. But soon, the inner voice condemning his potential resurfaced, like a storm cloud threatening the clear skies he had begun to enjoy. The question of whether or not the magazine would respond loomed ominously, gnawing at the edges of his newfound purpose. That fear was palpable, a reminder of past disappointments experienced long before, opportunities lost and dreams diminished under the pressure of others' expectations. Jake could feel uncertainty tightening its grip around him. One evening, as he sat scribbling in his notepad, reflecting on the themes of resilience that wove through his stories, an email notification blinked across his computer screen. His pulse raced, and the weight of the moment threatened to crush him. Heart pounding, he opened the message and the words captivated him like a lifeline. "Dear Jake, we loved your submission," was the first sentence. The next few lines cascaded into a blur, but the word accepted loomed large as Jake's breath caught in his throat. They wanted to publish his article, to feature his story. The very essence he had poured out in those vulnerable pages was destined to reach a wider audience. The thrill of accomplishment surged through him. Alongside a rush of joy came a profound realization. Jake had just navigated the choppy waters of his fears and come out the other side triumphant. The acceptance wasn't just about having his work recognized. It was a reflection of his evolution. He had transformed from a hesitant boy shaped by others' perceptions into a young man confidently owning his narrative. Days later, when he shared the news with his mother, her eyes widened, sparkling with both pride and awe. "You did it, Jake. I knew you could," she exclaimed, wrapping her arms around him tightly. In that embrace, the barriers built from uncertainty began to crumble. Their connection deepened through shared joy. As their evening unfolded, Jake reflected on how this moment marked not just a milestone in his writing journey, but also a turning point in their relationship. The conversation had shifted from one of cautious apprehension to one of mutual understanding and encouragement. Two dreamers standing side by side in an embrace of support. The spotlight on his writing didn't merely spotlight his success. It illuminated the bond he had forged with his mother. Having come to know her fears, understanding that her protective instincts stemmed from love, Jake concluded that their paths of ambition could intertwine harmoniously. Pursuing his passion didn't mean abandoning her journey. Rather, it enriched their lives as they learned to navigate the future together. Finalizing his new article for publication felt liberating, and with every sentence crafted, he established a voice confident enough to echo across spaces. He consistently pursued freelance opportunities, embracing the creative expressions that would ultimately allow him to build a sustainable life, one that encapsulated both his values and aspirations. In the months that followed, Jake blossomed into a writer shaped not just by his experiences, but by the intersection of respect for his mother's sacrifices and the audacity to claim his individuality. He secured a few more publications, but also discovered the internal resolve to earn a place for himself that wasn't based on relaying his mother's strength alone, but on showcasing the unique perspective he carried. With a solid confidence, Jake had embraced his worth and established a recognized competence in the literary realm. The path ahead was still laden with challenges and moments of uncertainty, yet he had unlocked a profound truth. Vulnerability could drive authentic connections, both personally and professionally. Through this transformation, he achieved more than personal fulfillment. He had built a bridge that connected love and ambition. With resilience as the fabric of their relationship, Jake and Sarah ventured together into every challenge, each step becoming a testament to how legacies could evolve rather than conclude. The future lay before him, a kaleidoscope of possibilities, where he could traverse uncharted territories with conviction, writing and rewriting, embodying the true essence of who he was meant to be. As Jake closed the laptop and gazed out at the sunset, his heart brimmed with gratitude for the journey. He finally understood that fulfillment was not merely about the pursuit of his dreams, but rather the art of recognizing and nurturing the bonds that had shaped him along the way. Now was the time for action, for celebration, for writing, and most importantly, for embracing the beautifully complex narrative of his life. Don't wait even one more second to share this story about transformation with at least 5 friends who need to witness the power of pursuing dreams while honoring the ones we love. You need to subscribe now to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional journeys. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and boost the stories that inspire. Comment below your reactions and theories about Jake's incredible journey.